Don't sign anything he brings home tonight. Not the partnership agreement, not the contract addendum, nothing. Just trust me on this one, Sophia. Your signature could destroy everything you've built." James Morrison's voice was barely above a whisper as he caught my arm outside the Whole Foods on East Oak Street. The December wind cut through my coat, but the ice in my veins had nothing to do with Chicago's brutal winter. James looked different from the polished architect who used to stop by our house for David's business meetings. His suit was cheaper now, his face thinner, but his eyes held something I hadn't seen in months: urgent concern. "James, what are you talking about?" I shifted my grocery bags, glancing around the parking lot. If David's mother Eleanor saw me talking to James, there would be hell to pay. She'd made it crystal clear that James Morrison was persona non grata after David fired him last spring. "I can't explain everything here, but please," he pressed a business card into my palm. "Come to this address tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, alone. I have documents you need to see before you put your name on anything David's planning." Then he was gone, disappearing between the rows of snow-covered cars, leaving me standing there with frozen fingers wrapped around a card that read, J. Morrison, Independent Architectural Consulting. I should have thrown it away. I should have told David the moment I got home. But something in James's expression stopped me, the same expression he'd had 9 months ago when David fired him on our kitchen, while Eleanor watched with a satisfied smile. David had called it a necessary business decision. James had questioned the structural integrity of a luxury condo project, raised concerns about building code violations, suggested they couldn't cut certain corners without risking future lawsuits. David and Eleanor had called it disloyalty, insubordination, fear-mongering that could cost them millions. "He's trying to sabotage your father's legacy," Eleanor had declared, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against our granite countertop. "David, you need to protect this family's reputation. Fire him immediately. No severance, no references. Make an example." And David, my husband of 12 years, had simply nodded. "You're right, Mother. James, you're done. Security will escort you out." I'd watched it happen from the doorway, my mouth opening and closing like a fish. James had a daughter, Emma, sweet Emma, who was only 7 years old and battling leukemia. He'd shown me pictures, talked about her treatments, the mounting medical bills that insurance barely covered, and David had just stripped away his livelihood without a second thought. That night, after Eleanor left and David retreated to his study, I'd made a decision. I found James's personal cell number in David's contacts and sent a simple text. "I'm sorry about today. If you need anything, please let me know." What started as a single text became a secret lifeline. I connected James with a former colleague of mine who needed freelance architectural drawings. I quietly paid Emma's hospital bills through an anonymous donation system. When James's car died, I arranged for a raffle prize through our church that just happened to be won by a struggling architect. Small things, secret things, things Eleanor and David could never know about. Because Eleanor Blackwood didn't just control her son, she controlled everything. What we ate, where we lived, how we decorated, who we associated with, what charities I could support, what friends I could keep. She'd moved into our converted carriage house 3 years ago after David's father passed, and slowly, methodically, she'd taken over every aspect of our lives. "Sophia, darling, you really should let me handle the household accounts. You're clearly overwhelmed." "Sophia, sweetie, that dress is lovely, but perhaps something more sophisticated for the firm's gala?" "Sophia, dear, David mentioned you're thinking about expanding your design business. Don't you think that's a bit much with the household to run? A wife's primary responsibility is supporting her husband's career, not competing with it." Every criticism wrapped in honey, every put-down disguised as concern. And David? David never defended me, never contradicted his mother, just smiled weakly and changed the subject, leaving me to navigate Eleanor's subtle warfare alone. But I'd learned to carve out my own small rebellions. My interior design business might be cute, as Eleanor called it, but it was mine. The clients I'd built, the reputation I'd earned, the bank account in my name alone, those were things she couldn't touch. Yet, that evening, David came home with his briefcase and his mother. Of course, Eleanor was with him. She was always with him. Sophia. Perfect timing. David's smile was too broad, too eager. He set his briefcase on the dining table I'd just cleared. I have fantastic news. The Riverside Towers project is moving forward, and I want you to be part of it. Eleanor settled into the chair at the head of the table, my chair, but I'd stopped fighting that battle years ago. David's finally recognizing that you could contribute to the family business, dear. Isn't that generous? I dried my hands on a dish towel, every nerve suddenly alert. What do you mean, be part of it? A partnership agreement. David pulled out a thick folder of documents. Your design expertise could really elevate the interiors of the luxury units. Plus, it makes sense financially, tax benefits, shared liability structure, all very smart. I just need your signature on a few papers, and we can get started first thing Monday. My fingers touched the business card still in my pocket. James's warning echoed in my mind. Can I look over everything first? I reached for the folder, but Eleanor's hand got there faster. Oh, Sophia, it's all very standard legal language. David's attorneys have reviewed everything thoroughly. You trust your husband, don't you? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Unless you think you know more about commercial real estate than David and his entire legal team, I'd just like to read. We need the signatures tonight, David interrupted, pulling out his Mont Blanc pen. The investors are meeting Monday morning. This is time-sensitive, Soph. I thought you'd be excited to finally be taken seriously in a major project. There it was, the subtle dig, the implication that I wasn't serious, that my business was amateur hour, that this was my chance to play in the big leagues. David had learned manipulation at his mother's knee. I'll look it over this weekend and sign Monday, I said firmly. Eleanor's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. David, didn't you say the notary could only meet tonight? Such a shame if we had to move forward without Sophia's involvement because she couldn't be bothered to support her husband's biggest opportunity. Tomorrow, I repeated, meeting Eleanor's gaze. I'll read everything tomorrow, and we can sign Monday morning. If it's as straightforward as you say, one more day won't matter. David's smile faltered. For just a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Panic? Frustration? But Eleanor smoothed it over quickly. Of course, dear. We understand you need time. We'll leave the papers here for your review. She stood, gathering her cashmere wrap. David, let's go get dinner. Clearly, Sophia needs some space to think about whether she trusts her own family. After they left, I pulled out every page of that contract. My business degree from Northwestern was dusty, but not useless. I understood enough to know something felt wrong. The liability structure seemed odd, the percentage allocations strange, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what bothered me. James's card sat on the counter. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I barely slept that night. The address James had given me led to a small office above a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. I'd told David I had a client meeting, not entirely a lie since James technically was consulting on my behalf now. James opened the door before I could knock. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. The office was modest but organized. He gestured to a table covered with folders, building plans, spreadsheets, and photographs. I know you've been helping me, Sophia. I know about the hospital bills, the job referrals, the car. I've wanted to thank you properly, but I also wanted to respect your privacy. Emma's doing better? I asked softly. His face softened. She's in remission. Thanks to you, we could afford the experimental treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. I owe you my daughter's life. You don't owe me anything, James. That's exactly why I'm doing this. He pulled out a chair for me. Because you helped me when you had no reason to, when it put you at risk with your husband and his mother. So when I saw what David's planning to do to you, I couldn't stay silent. He opened the first folder. 3 weeks ago, I was doing contract work for a commercial inspection firm. We were hired to assess some of David's previous projects for an insurance audit. Routine stuff. But what I found wasn't routine at all. Building plans filled with red marks, inspection reports with forged signatures, code violations buried in addendums, safety shortcuts that saved hundreds of thousands but created structural liabilities. The Riverside Towers project you're being asked to partner on? James's finger traced a blueprint. It's built on the same blueprint as the Harbor Point condos from 4 years ago, and Harbor Point is about to face a class action lawsuit. The foundation is compromised, the electrical system is substandard, and the fire suppression system doesn't meet current codes. When that lawsuit hits, and it will, Within the next 6 months, everyone listed as a partner will be liable. My mouth went dry. David knows about this? David commissioned Harbor Point. He approved every corner that was cut. Eleanor oversaw the project management. James pulled out another document bank statements, highlighted transfers. And here's the worst part. For the past 18 months, David's been systematically moving assets out of joint accounts into offshore holdings. Your business accounts? He's been slowly draining them through a shell company, making it look like normal business expenses. The room spun. Numbers swam before my eyes. Transfers I'd authorized for household expenses that had actually funded something called Blackwood Holdings International. My signature on documents I'd signed without reading, trusting my husband. The partnership agreement he wants you to sign doesn't make you a partner in Riverside Towers' success, James said quietly. It makes you the primary liability holder when Harbor Point's lawsuit breaks. Your name, your business, your assets, everything you've built, it will all be on the line while David and Eleanor have moved their money somewhere unreachable. Why would he do this to me? Because Eleanor's convinced him you're expendable. I heard her say it once, when I was working late at your house. She told David that divorce would be expensive and messy, but if you were bankrupted by a business disaster, you'd have nothing to fight for in court. You'd sign whatever settlement they offered just to escape the debt. I stared at the evidence spread across the table. Years of marriage, years of little cruelties and small defeats, all leading to this moment. David hadn't married me for love, he'd married me for my college trust fund, my family connections, my design business that gave him social credibility. And now that Eleanor had decided I was more trouble than I was worth, he was setting me up to lose everything. There's more. James hesitated. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know if David was hiding anything else, anything we could use to protect you. The photos made my stomach turn. David, entering a luxury apartment building in River North. David, with a woman I didn't recognize, their hands intertwined. David, kissing her on a balcony while I'd been home cooking dinner for his mother. Her name is Melissa Harrington. She's a developer he met through work. They've been together for at least 2 years. The apartment is in her name, but David's been paying for it through the same shell company he's using to drain your accounts. If you sign that partnership agreement, you're essentially funding your husband's affair while taking on legal liability for his fraud. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 12 years of marriage. 12 years of being made to feel small and inadequate and not quite good enough, and this whole time, David had been planning my destruction with his mother's blessing. What do I do? My voice sounded distant, not my own. James pulled out a fresh folder. I've documented everything. Building violations, financial fraud, the affair, Eleanor's involvement in falsifying inspection reports. I have a lawyer friend who specializes in both divorce and corporate fraud. She's expecting your call. He paused. But Sophia, you need to understand if you do this. If you fight back, Eleanor will use every weapon she has. She'll make it brutal. I thought about Emma Morrison, fighting for her life while her father fought for her survival. I thought about James, wrongfully fired, struggling alone, never asking for help. I thought about all the ways I'd made myself small, swallowed my voice, accepted Eleanor's cruelty and David's indifference because I'd believed that was what marriage required. I'm done being afraid of Eleanor Blackwood, I said. The next 48 hours were a blur of legal consultations, document copying, and strategic planning. James's lawyer friend, Patricia Chen, was a shark in a power suit who'd been waiting for a case like this. We'll file for divorce and submit the fraud evidence to the state attorney's office simultaneously, Patricia explained. The partnership agreement David wanted you to sign? We'll use that as evidence of intent to defraud. Combined with the building code violations and financial malfeasance, we're looking at potential criminal charges. Monday morning, I signed papers. Just not the ones David expected. I served him with divorce papers at his office, with his staff watching. Then I drove to the state's attorney's office and handed over every piece of evidence James had compiled. By Monday afternoon, David's legal team was scrambling. By Tuesday morning, Eleanor showed up at my door. You ungrateful little bitch. No honeycoating now, no pretense of civility. Eleanor's face was twisted with rage. After everything we've done for you, given you, this is how you repay us? You mean after you tried to frame me for David's fraud? After you helped him steal from me? After you encouraged him to destroy my business so I'd be too broken to fight a divorce? You have no idea what you've done. David's reputation, his father's legacy, the family name, you're destroying everything out of petty spite. I'm protecting myself from criminals. There's a difference. Eleanor's hand flew up. She actually tried to slap me, but I caught her wrist, held it firm. Get out of my house, I said quietly. This house that's in my name alone, that I bought with my money before I ever met your son. Get out and don't come back. For the first time in 3 years, I saw fear in Eleanor Blackwood's eyes. The investigation moved faster than anyone expected. David's business partner, terrified of being implicated, turned state's evidence. The Harbor Point lawsuit broke wide open, exposing years of systematic fraud. Melissa Harrington, David's mistress, proved to have her own set of financial crimes she'd been embezzling from her own company, and David had been helping her hide it. David lost his professional license. The DA filed criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and racketeering. Eleanor, as project manager for Harbor Point and several other compromised buildings, faced her own legal troubles. The society circles Eleanor had ruled for decades turned their backs when the scandal broke. Charity boards asked her to step down. Country club memberships were quietly revoked. The Blackwood name she'd fought so hard to protect became synonymous with corruption. As for me, Patricia Chen was brilliant. We'd filed all the paperwork to separate my assets before David's crimes became public. My business was protected, my reputation intact. The design world actually rallied around me. I became the architect's wife who exposed the fraud, a story of courage rather than shame. 6 months after that December morning outside Whole Foods, I stood in my newly renovated office. James Morrison sat across from me, now my full-time business partner. His architectural expertise, combined with my design vision, had already won us 3 major contracts. Emma wants to thank you herself, James said, pulling out his phone. She made you something. The video showed a smiling little girl with a scarf covering her chemo-bald head, holding up a crayon drawing of 2 women, one tall, one small, holding hands under a rainbow. Thank you for saving my daddy and me, Miss Sophia. You're a real superhero. I wasn't a superhero. I was just a woman who'd been pushed too far, who'd finally found the courage to push back. But if Emma Morrison wanted to see me that way, I'd take it. David's trial was set for fall. Eleanor's for winter. I wouldn't be attending either one. Instead, I'd be in New York, presenting my firm's proposal for a sustainable housing project that prioritized safety over profit, integrity over shortcuts. The client specifically requested me because of my reputation for uncompromising ethical standards. Funny how that worked out. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Final divorce decree signed. You're officially free. Celebratory drinks tonight? I looked out my office window at the Chicago skyline, at the city I'd almost lost everything in, the city where I'd found my spine. Actually, I texted back, I'm having dinner with a friend and his daughter. But tomorrow champagne at my place? Perfect. And Sophia, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I smiled, pocketing my phone. The business card James had pressed into my palm that December day was framed on my desk now, a reminder that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the people you save end up saving you right back. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so good, so honest, so completely your own, that the people who tried to destroy you become irrelevant. Eleanor Blackwood had called me weak, stupid, inadequate for 12 years. Turns out she was wrong about all of it. Turns out I was stronger than anyone knew. Especially me.